All right, guys, so today we're going to talk about how to become a better shot and a more consistent shot with a stick bow. Now, I've done videos before where we've talked about this sort of thing. We've talked about how I shoot, how I aim. We've talked about back tension, proper alignment, form, and all of that stuff. But there's one concept that continues to kind of elude people, and that's back tension. And I think what's going on is it's hard to really wrap your head around what back tension is until you've already got there and you already know what it feels like. Until then, it's kind of this abstract concept that people talk about, but it's really hard to understand. And so I want to take this video to really dive into what it is and why it's so important. So like I said, I've already talked a little bit about back tension and what it is, but just as a recap and an overview, I just want to touch on that before we really get into the mechanics of it. And so when you hear a lot of guys talking about back tension, what they'll tell you is squeeze your shoulder blades together. And for me, that didn't really do it for me. I couldn't really understand, I couldn't really grasp the concept until, and I think, if I recall correctly, I think it was Larry Yin on Masters of the Bare Bow, and I think it was volume 3, which if you don't have that video, it's a very, very good shooting resource. But he was describing it like when you're drawing, imagine someone's hand on the back of your drawing elbow, and you're trying to push that hand back as far as you can go. And when you do that, that's when you really engage those back muscles. So now with that, let's get into some of the mechanics. All right, so I'm going to use this little model that I've got mocked up here just to kind of better illustrate, hopefully, what you're achieving when you achieve back tension and how that differs from not achieving good back tension and proper alignment. So with this model, I've got my forearm here, I've got my bicep, I've got my shoulders, and then I've got my other arm, my drawing elbow, my drawing hand, and this is my bow hand here. And so as you start your draw, you come around, and as you reach proper alignment, you start transferring that power to your back muscles. And when you get back here and things start to get into alignment, you have to use very little pressure to hold that bow at full draw. Whereas if you're over here, you're having to use a ton of muscle in your bicep right here to hold that. Now, the reason that proper back tension and proper alignment is important is because the entire time that you're at full draw like this bow is trying to compress you. It's trying to come forward. But if I'm like this and have good bone-on-bone support, I can press on this elbow. I can try to compress this whole thing. And because you have structural support, it's not able to compress you. Now, if you're out here like this and you have this drawing elbow pointed off at an angle, you're having to use a ton of muscle to hold it. And if you'll notice, if I change my position of my elbow here at all, I'm really changing my draw length a ton. Whereas if I'm back here and have good alignment, I can move my elbow and I'm really not changing my draw length at all. When you have your drawing elbow pointed out here like this, it's very hard to get a repeatable shot after shot, because you're not locked in. When I'm back here like this, I can't really collapse unless I let that back tension go and I start to come around like this. So the reason that I talk so much about back tension, about proper alignment, is because it's for consistent shooting. Unless you're some sort of freak of nature that can just shoot off the hip, and I've seen guys like that and they are absolutely impressive, but I'd say 99% of the shooters out there just aren't going to be able to do that. But for most of us, consistent shooting requires consistent form. It requires a consistent anchor, a consistent draw length, a release, follow through, all of that stuff. And without proper back tension and proper alignment, achieving any of that is almost impossible. All right, guys, so you can see that I am tethered to this bow
through this device. Now this is called a Form Master, and I'm going to show you how to use it in a couple of different ways. Now this is not something that I normally use. I basically just built it. It took me about 10 minutes, and I made it for this video so that I can demonstrate for you how I'm using my back muscles to draw this bow. Now there's a couple of different ways that you can set this thing, and I've got it set right now so that if you look, the string that's attaching me to this bow is shorter than the distance from my elbow to my the joints in my finger where I actually grab the string. And so I can't grab the string. And so what this does when you set this thing up this way is that it makes it so that it's physically impossible for you to use your biceps to draw the bow. And so you're forced to use your back muscles to draw this thing. So when I draw this bow, I'm not even going to grab the string. I'm just going to draw it completely with my back muscles. And I'm holding with nothing. I'm not even touching the string. So if you're wondering if you're engaging your bicep too much, this is a great way to figure that out because, like I said, you physically can't use your forearm or your bicep to draw the bow. It has to be all done with your back. Now I'm going to show you a different way to set it up so that it'll really point out if you're using or if you're achieving proper back tension. All right, guys, so I've reset this Form Master to now assess my level of back tension. So I've basically just lengthened this string just a little bit, and so now I can go ahead and grab the string and make my draw as normal. And what you're gonna see is when I release this string, this bowstring's only gonna jump out of my hand maybe an inch or so. And so the reason I've set it this way is because if I am achieving proper back tension and I have good alignment and good bone-on-bone structural support, what this is going to do is when I release that string, it's going to try to compress me. But if I have good bone-on-bone support, it's not going to. Now, if I haven't achieved good back tension and I'm using my biceps and my muscle to hold my draw, you're going to see me really collapse like that because I can be compressed. Whereas if you have good back tension and good structural alignment, you're not going to be compressed.
So you can see how solid that was. It didn't get jerked around, and that's because I did have good alignment and that good bone-on-bone structural support. So if I hadn't had good alignment and good form, what you would have seen is as I released that bowstring, the momentum and the power of the bow would have tried to pull my arrow around and compress me. But because I did have proper alignment, good bone-on-bone structural support, I was able to hold that and not get jerked around. So I know some of you are going to be wondering about the bow that I was shooting today. So this is a werewolf, and the quiver attached to it's actually a Creekwalker quiver from Creekwalker Trading. But the bow itself is 45 pounds at 28 inches, and I'm drawing a little bit farther than that, so I'm probably about 48 pounds. But this bow's a little bit different than, well, a lot different than the bows that I normally shoot. But it is a sweet shooting bow, and I think it's a great option for guys that are just thinking about getting into traditional archery, especially those coming from the compound world, because this thing is I think it's going to kind of bridge the gap a little bit. But if you liked what you saw today, if you got anything out of it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel because I'm uploading new content like this on a pretty regular basis. And if you've got any questions about anything you saw in this video, if you've got suggestions for future videos, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Give us a thumbs up and share this thing. It really helps a lot when you share it. So with that, we'll see you next time. So I want to take just a quick minute just to show you this thing. Now, you can buy Form Masters online. I'm not sure where you'd get one, but I'm sure if you Google it, you could find somewhere to buy one. Or you can make one super cheap out of just some webbing, or I had some leather laying around. So all it is a thing for your arm to fit through. It's got a slit in it so that it fits around your elbow and kind of cradles your elbow like that. And then I've got a piece of paracord tied to this thing. And so I just tie this into my, my bowstring with just a little slip knot. Make sure you tie it so it's not going to come loose. But, you know, they're pretty easy to make.